The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network. It's time for Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling. We'll talk all things Hokie wrestling with Coach Tony Roby and staff. Now, let's join your host, Hall of Fame wrestling writer and broadcaster, Jason Bryant.
Episode 61 of Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling. Today, we're going to visit with assistant coach Frank Molinaro as he still tries to thaw out from his trip to Siberia. Coach Molinaro, welcome back to the program. And have you really thawed out yet?
Yeah, I'm finally warming up being back in Virginia. It's pretty cold.
So what does that – I mean, I live in Minnesota, so I understand what cold is. What is cold for you, and how did that kind of move your barometer or your marker on what cold is and what cold isn't?
Well, after the first day, I was actually more prepared than probably most people that live out there. I don't know how those people do it, but I had, the warmers, the gloves, the hat, and everything. But then after the first or second day, I kind of liked it because it kind of woke me up, and just breathing that air in your lungs just kind of it was very sobering.
Yeah, when you walk outside up here and it's 25 below sometimes, and it doesn't get that cold here all the time. So everybody that was complaining about the Super Bowl and whatever being cold, it does kind of take your breath away initially. It's just you have to breathe twice. It's okay, that just happened.
Exactly.
Now, we'll talk a little bit about the Hokies' performance in some of these dual meets. Of course, wins over Lehigh, Duke, and North Carolina. But we're starting out the episode talking about your performance at the Oregon. You've almost been training at the Southeast Regional Training Center for a full year, and coming away with a bronze medal. What's the preparation like for something like this during the college wrestling season, where you're kind of trying to split duties, but still know that the Southeast Regional Training Center is providing what you need to get ready for such an event?
I think the biggest part is really just making sure that, my routine is as efficient as possible. Am I getting my coaching responsibilities in? Am I getting good training in? Am I kind of integrating my training in with the college training and still making sure that, I'm getting the stuff that I need? The biggest thing for this competition, my focus was, kind of just being strong for 70 kilos, being as conditioned as I possibly could. And I was just really, really excited to compete. I hadn't had a chance to compete in a long time. And I think kind of coaching and seeing the guys respond out there, makes me want to compete even more. So, really just making sure that I have a perfect routine. And if my routine isn't kind of working out, week to week, I'll try to adjust it and just make sure I get the most out of every day.
This isn't the first time you've coached and competed at the same time, but what's different about training in Blacksburg as being a member of the staff versus being maybe a volunteer assistant or training back at your familiar haunts at Penn State?
I think the biggest difference is I kind of have more responsibility over the guys. I have more responsibility and kind of a little bit more say in terms of what we're going to do and training wise and just kind of individually with the guys. So I'd say that's a little bit different, but just the excitement too, being around new people, being around a group of guys, and I kind of feel like competing and coaching, it's a good role for me because, it gives me a good opportunity to kind of not only just preach about leadership, but try to show the guys, what it takes, that intensity level every single day and that discipline. So I think it works out actually even better being able to still compete and these guys to kind of see, my routine and discipline and then also coach them at the same time.
Have you found yourself becoming more of a student of the game, so to speak, when it comes to wrestling, trying to now break down technique on a more, important level in terms of your coaching position so that it helps you? It's okay, wow, I just showed them that. Maybe I need to do that as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that goes mentally and physically. You see a lot of things out there that everybody struggles with. And, you see guys react and you see guys respond differently, and I think the biggest thing is just kind of being honest with yourself. And, I'm able to learn from the guys, technically, there's certain areas that they struggle with that I'll have to educate myself on. And just wrestling with all the different styles on our team, helping the guys develop their style individually. I think all of it, helps kind of clarify some of the things that I do, but also, like you said, you have to be a student of the game. I'm literally obsessed with wrestling. I think about wrestling all day. I wake up thinking about wrestling. I go to sleep thinking about wrestling. The only time I really try to not think about wrestling is when I'm with my family and with my kids and try to give them my attention. But I think this day and age, with where wrestling is at now, with the competition, with, how many people are really kind of going all in on it, I think you have to be all in and give yourself any kind of advantage you can. And most of that, doesn't come from just working hard. I think at the end of the day, everybody's going to work hard. I think it gets down to the small details, when you get to that higher level. And, I think that's where being a student of the game is necessary.
You talked about that responsibility on the coaching side of things. Your family is growing faster than we can keep up. I mean, talk about those responsibilities. And, the addition of more kids just seems to add, pull your time different ways. We've said on numerous times you've got to be a little bit selfish to be a wrestler in an individual sport. But, balancing that home time and being away in Siberia. I mean, being away on a trip, okay, down in Chapel Hill or in Raleigh or up in Charlottesville, that's one thing. Being, 14, 12, 13, 14 time zones away, I mean, that's got to be a little pressing on the family unit there.
Yeah, that was actually, I was gone another week too in January. So I spent a week at the Olympic Training Center and then had a couple weeks off and then left for Uregan. So I was gone for a few weeks, and it's always it's harder and harder to leave home now, even if it's for a day, let alone a week, and halfway across the world. I think it's challenging. And I definitely miss my kids when I leave, but, I'm starting to figure out the right balance, in terms of, it's definitely been a tough transition. One kid we thought was hard. 2 kids was starting to get a lot harder. And then 3 kids is, we're just trying to stay focused on surviving one day at a time until we get a good routine. And we've also had a lot of help, so that's, we're always blessed and grateful for that. But, my kids I would think kind of beforehand that, it probably would be too much for me to train and compete and coach and have 3 kids. But at the end of the day, I found a way to kind of make it where it's actually, I feel like, an advantage to me. It's an advantage to, kind of the overall balance of my mind. I always get to come home and kind of unwind from wrestling, unwind from coaching, unwind from, striving to be the best wrestler and coach I can and spend time with my kids. And, you know how it is. There's no better joy than kind of spending one-on-one time with your family.
Oh, yeah. Like just this morning, my youngest wakes up and my wife's getting her out after we put the oldest on the bus to go to kindergarten, which is just another thing that just freaks you out as you realize you're getting older. And I was like, "Hey, Ruby, can I get a hug?" And she runs over to the chair and wants to watch Paw Patrol or something. And then she runs to Daddy for a hug when she bumps her head. Daddy, hug, hug. So, sometimes they want to play with Daddy, sometimes they don't. And sometimes that's just sometimes you need that little break and sometimes you don't. Now, we want to circle back to, again, that home dynamic. We've mentioned that your wife was an athlete in an individual sport. And, now with 3 kids, what has her opinion been like of how all this works together? She's got the understanding of the athlete's mindset, but you add those kids to the equation, a lot more weight comes on her too.
Yeah, I mean, my wife, she's a trooper. In terms of the athletic side of it, her mindset and her work ethic, she's also a savage when it comes to that. So, she's been super supportive. I think if it wasn't for my wife, I wouldn't have been able to kind of build myself back up and get back in wrestling. And, we joke about it all the time, but, she's probably one of the best coaches I've ever had because she knows, how to really kind of pick my brain on stuff. She knows how to keep me honest. She knows my tendencies and she knows wrestling just as good as most of the people that I'm around. So, she's been very understanding with it. She's just trying to find that good balance, and she'll always, when I get closer to a competition, she'll always take some more of my responsibilities so I can get more focused. And she's willing to do whatever it takes to put myself in the best position to win. But, again, we joke around that she's probably one of the better coaches I have in terms of kind of keeping me honest with myself and keeping me on track with the right focus.
circling back to the trip to Siberia, Krasnoyarsk, how would you have rated your performance?
I think I would have probably rated my effort, probably about as high as you can get. I think I've had a couple things that I've tried to been changed about the way I wrestle, about the intensity, about my effort level, about my attack rate, about just shooting more and, staying aggressive. And I think in that aspect, I was really sharp. I think my conditioning, I could have wrestled, a 20-minute match out there. I did not get tired at all. I felt really strong. I think the one thing that I was a little bit rusty was my strategy when I wrestled Kurbanaliyev. I think I was almost too aggressive. I think, just having not competed in a while, just kind of winning that tight match, I think would have probably been a better strategy. So I'd say the one critique of myself was strategy, but really just positives across the board. My preparation was really good. I had a lot of pop. My weight was good. My mindset was really good. Everything that I've been practicing and kind of preaching to the kids, lined up pretty well. I just think that, more experience and I'll be able to get that world title.
You're not an unknown entity on the international stage anymore. Do you think that that's maybe kind of made that gap a little closer with people that you come out there, they're the first time they're seeing you, they don't have a lot to scout you with, and now you're coming through these tours again. They've seen you at the Olympics. They know what you've got. They know to be aware of that double and that you're going to try to finish it for 4 each time. So how has that made things a little more difficult from the opponents having more film to scout you with?
I think the biggest challenge is people are trying to slow me down on the tie-ups. I think that because there's so much film out there, because people now are aware of what I do, I think the biggest thing is they're slowing my tie-ups down. They're figuring out ways to rush and time me, underhook me, and, basically avoid the high crotch, avoid the big move. So I think that's where it comes back to really making sure that my activity level is crazy high the whole match and trying to give myself more scoring opportunities, more so than ever, because now guys are really, staying in good position, trying not to, go in any areas that give me any openings. So I have to really pick up that activity level, pick up my hand fight, pick up my motion. So that's been the biggest challenge, but I think it's also starting to make me a lot better wrestler because I'm starting to open up more. I'm starting to shoot my single leg more. I'm just, it's really kind of helping me diversify my attack, because I want to score more.
Has the number of times you're getting hit in the face by your opponents, has that decreased?
Yeah, they know better now.
It's like, whose dog did you run over in a previous life when you first getting out there? It's like, man, Molinaro got punched in the face again.
Mm-hmm. I haven't gotten to that lately, so.
All right, now as we transition here back to the world of folk style wrestling and the wonderful world that is riding time, there's a pretty big dual meet that was held over the weekend between your alma mater, Penn State, and Ohio State. And one of the key matches there was at heavy where Kyle Schneider, who was over there with you at the Uregan, wrestled. He needed some big points to beat Penn State in that dual meet. And just from you weren't even competing when you got back over here. What is that type of lag like for an athlete? And could you imagine going from Siberia to wrestling a top 5 guy in a high intensity dual meet within the same week? I mean, explain how the recovery process goes for that and what you think maybe Kyle Schneider was going through.
I mean, it's pretty incredible that he does that, because if you rewind before that, a couple weeks before he was at the training center, he flew home from the training center to his wrestling match against, I don't remember, maybe Rutgers. And then he flew back to the training center. Then he flew home. Then they traveled. Then he went to the Uregan. Then he got back to the Uregan and wrestled in that duel. So, I mean, he must have been exhausted. He wouldn't tell you that. He would never make an excuse. But I traveled home, I think, 2 days before he did, and I was physically tired even when I got back on my routine for about a week, 7-8 days. And I was going to bed at like 7 o'clock, waking up super early, and I just kind of felt like my body wasn't adjusted yet. So I would imagine that, that definitely plays a role. Even if it doesn't make you physically tired, I think it mentally fatigues you as well. And in that situation, that was really kind of emotional dual meet, emotional match, and it seemed to me that, Kyle was very emotional and excited. I think that kind of stuff can tire you out as well. So, I mean, he must have been tired from that trip. It takes a good week to get your body regulated and recalibrate it back to your normal routine.
Is it a little interesting to go from a trip where Kyle Schneider is a teammate, he's part of Team USA over in the foreboding lands of Siberia, then to going back and on your own time, you might be rooting against him because it's your alma mater wrestling. Explain that dynamic that wrestling brings from freestyle to the college level.
I think it things that we always joke around about it when we're around, Ohio State versus Penn State versus Virginia Tech, just kind of all the senior level guys, just supporting their alma mater, and it's all fun and games. But yeah, it was interesting to see him kind of wrestling the best guys in the world, and kind of the challenge that presented at the Oregon, winning the second title, to getting that major decision, in rec hall against a tough opponent, Nick Neville. So both challenging circumstances, just different, in a lot of ways. But, it's interesting to see kind of how you go from, those circumstances to, the rec hall circumstances, because they're both really hard, and Kyle just, he's all about being challenged. He's proven that.
Now, what are the challenges for you as a coach in trying to keep up with, your employer, Virginia Tech, here, as you got the win over Lehigh, got the win over Duke, and you're over there competing. So how much are you trying to pay attention to what's going on in Blacksburg when you're over again in it is Siberia? I mean, it is it's very cold.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing is just making sure that at all times, even when I'm, here, is making sure that I'm in contact with the guys, just pretty much just keeping tabs on it and making sure that, everyone has the right focus, the right mindset. Everybody has, something to improve on. Everyone has some sort of challenge and kind of plan in place. So that's the biggest thing. Even when I was overseas, I tried to kind of keep tabs on everyone the best I could, and just kind of staying in the group chat and that kind of stuff. But, just being out here, making sure that, we're just progressing each week and improving. I don't really get too hung up on the results. I think that eventually you'll get the results that you want. I think the biggest thing right now is to make sure that everybody stays motivated, healthy, hungry, fresh, that we don't overtrain, and that we just have the right focus week to week. And that focus is always improvement, having fun, and really just giving a full effort every day. So those two things, just being motivated and constantly improving. And a lot of that just comes down to having good communication with the guys. So just making sure they have a plan.
As we turn our focus to the win over Carolina, which was coming in ranked 25th in the country, a couple big wins there, including Brent Moore beats AC Headley. You got Ryan Blees beating Troy Heilman and Hunter Boland. Where did this come from? Majoring past All-American Ethan Ramos. So what was the individual performance you were most pleased with as a coach?
I think the most satisfying one for me to see was probably Ryan Blees, just because, I know how much work that kid puts in, and, he's really kind of been on the edge, and we all know how good he is. We all know that he can beat those top level guys, but, you kind of got to get that big win first. And I think it kind of gives you that confidence, and he already had that confidence, and he got that win. So it's a little validation, but, that was good to see. Also, Hunter Boland. He's continuing to improve. He had a little bit of a down period where he was kind of still adjusting some things to his style, some things to his strategy. But I think he's starting to figure out a good balance between being aggressive and kind of wrestling where he's at his best. And, that's a tough opponent. That guy's strong. That guy knows how to stay in good position. And Hunter was able to find some spots where he could take advantage of them, and he did. So I think that was also probably a really satisfying one to watch, because I know it's going to give him a lot of confidence. And, just by his energy and body language this week, it's definitely going to give him some confidence, definitely going to give him a little bit more motivation this week. So I'm excited to see how the guys perform this weekend. I think that it was a great match. I don't want to be negative about it at all, but I still think that we're wrestling to a little bit too much and I think that these guys can dominate a little bit more. And I think every coach will probably say that, but I really believe that, from 41 to 49 to 65, 57, all those weights, I think that we can score more points, score more takedowns, and these next couple matches are critical, because these are the last kind of evaluations that we're going to have before the ACC tournament, and then, right into nationals. So we have to really make sure that we cut it loose out there these next two matches. And I think that the guys are continuing to progress, so I don't think that'll be a problem. But, for me, I just want to see guys kind of open up and dominate a little bit more and just kind of forget about the score.
And, of course, the situation with Ryan Blease coming down after Salomon Ciscos was out of the lineup for a bit. Now, Salomon comes back. He's now at 157, loses a tight one in sudden victory to a pretty stout freshman, Kennedy Monday, the son of Kenny Monday, who's nationally ranked from North Carolina. So let's just talk about the decision. One, BC, LaPrade got hurt against Duke. He's out with a sprain from what we understand. And the decision to put Cisco up at 57, how is this going to be complicating things, I guess, from a coaching standpoint down the stretch, as you've got lineup decisions to make? BC's been wrestling well of late. Before the injury, you got a two-time All-American Cisco. You got Blease down to weight wrestle. There's a lot of things to factor in here.
Yeah, well, it's a good problem to have. We're starting to develop some depth. We're starting to develop some of our, second, third guys in the lineup, even in our upper weight. So I think it's a good problem to have. Right now, I think the biggest thing with Cisco is just getting more mat time. So, we're excited to see him this weekend. Yeah, he'll be at 157 this weekend, and, just kind of waiting for him to hit his stride. I think that he's having a good week of practice so far. I think that was a pretty good match from last week, pretty good opponent, but still, he needs more mat time. He needs to get in his rhythm more. I can't speak for him, but I would imagine that he feels like he has more energy at 57. Even though it's a bigger weight class, I'm sure he feels a little bit stronger, being that he doesn't have to cut as much weight to get down, and he can be kind of more at 100% with less diminishing returns. So I think, we'll kind of let those guys decide that. But for the most part, we have a pretty good idea of the direction we're going.
You started your wrestling career at 141 pounds. How much of a difference does it make when you really do go up a weight class?
It was a huge difference. I went from my focus every day to how am I going to get this weight off to what am I going to work on today? What am I going to do extra? And basically my mindset shifted from energy conservation to just trying to get guys tired. Like that was always, when I was at 49, I was always just trying to get guys tired. I was trying to run back to the center. I was trying to really just kind of use it as an advantage, whereas at 41, it was more so, how can I conserve my energy? How could I pick my spots? I really couldn't cut it loose. And I think in some cases, if you're strong enough, it's almost a better thing to go up a weight class. If you're confident that you can wrestle full 7 minutes, hustle is underrated. Hustle and grit is in college wrestling is huge, and I think that you got to kind of find the weight class where you have a good balance between all three of those. And 49 was a great weight for me. It was perfect amount of weight cutting.
And we look at how the lineup does shake out, circling back to the present state of the program. With BC hurt, first of all, I think the first gut reaction was people when they saw Cisco up at 57 was like, oh man, BC must be done for the year. BC's not out for the year.
No, it's nothing like surgery or anything like that. He's back to working out. He's back to getting on his routine and, rehabbing and all that stuff. But, hats off to BC. He's another great kid. You didn't hear a lot about him before the season. I think people are starting to know his name now, but extremely hard worker. He's a great teammate, great character. He works hard every day. He's always willing to learn. He's just a great guy to have around the team. And I think that he has a bright future. He's still young, and he continues to improve. And the one last thing I'll say about him, too, is out of all the kids that I've ever been around, he's probably one of the most athletic people I've ever trained with. Some days we do some crazy conditioning, and, we kind of throw everything that we can at the kid, backwards, bear crawls, anything that you can think of, there's nothing that really slows the kid down. He's just a pure athlete, very strong, very conditioned, hard-nosed kid. So bright future for him. Right now just trying to get him recovered, trying to get him healthy, and then when that happens, we'll go from there.
You haven't had a chance to work with all these guys for quite a long time, but the last home meet was the last for a couple seniors. And what has this senior class meant to the Hokie program in the time you've been there?
Well, it's meant a lot. I think, Dennis, when I first came here, he was here all summer. So I've got a good amount of time training with him and working with him. And, he's a great kid. Again, he's another very hard worker, manages his weight, gets what he needs. And he kind of leads by example. He does everything right. He doesn't complain. He always has the right mindset. Really excited to be able to have that leadership on the team. And the same with Jarrett Hott. He's just a standout kid. And, I hope someday that my kids grow up with the same character that Jarrett has. He's really just an all-around solid guy. And he works very hard. And, he's very motivated. And he's got big goals this year. So I think, he's got a really great opportunity to kind of end on a high note. And it's also a good opportunity to kind of lead us into this NCAA tournament and kind of take this team to places we want it to go. And I think that if you could pick a guy, you want Jarrett Hott there. He's solid, he's consistent, and really grateful that I was able to come here and have that leadership on the team right away.
One thing it's when you're coming into a new coaching situation, you kind of have to understand the landscape of the university and its sports programs in the ACC and actually even beyond. Before, when the programs were even in the same conference, Virginia Tech, that is a rivalry that the whole school gets ignited for, regardless of the sport. And how big of it, even though right now on paper Virginia Tech a sizable favorite in that dual meet, but how much are you guys getting up for this match against the Cavaliers in Charlottesville?
We're really excited. We've had this is a full week of matches until Sunday, so we're really kind of just going day by day and making sure that we're getting the most out of these days and getting the most prepared we possibly can for this weekend. Because I said it before, we only have a few more matches left, a few more times to evaluate ourselves and evaluate the team. And this is another conference match. It's an in-state rival, so it's important to us. And regardless of what it looks like on paper, I think the biggest thing is making sure that we maximize our own ability individually. And we're still working on figuring out how to do that, from 125 to heavyweight. We're trying to figure out how we can be at our best. So, we're excited. Close drive, great week of training. We'll be prepared to go, and we're excited.
Yeah, and how important is it to stay on for this with the ACC regular season title on the line the following week against NC State?
Exactly. I mean, it's really important. We can't look ahead to NC State, because everybody, they want to win. Everybody's going to want to improve and kind of give their best effort. So, we can't look ahead. We have to focus on Thursday, focus on our 3 p.m. workout, focus on our drill in the morning, all the way up to our match on Sunday. And I think if we can just kind of keep that present mind, keep it lighthearted, and keep having fun, I think we'll have some good results on Sunday. But all in all, I'm just looking forward to a good duel, because I think that they also have had some positives, and, they're improving, and they have a good coaching staff over there. So, I'm sure that they'll be prepared as well.
Frank Molinaro wrapping things up here on Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling. Any final words and, maybe soup recipes or things like that to warm you up in this cold, cold winter?
No, I just excited, man. We got less than 40 days to the NCAA tournament, and just really excited to be at Virginia Tech. This is a really good opportunity for me, and, I'm really pleased with the coaching staff and everybody I get to work with here, and some of the guys that we have training on the senior level, and just our progress and progression. I think it's exciting, and just really grateful to be a part of it.
Hokie fans, listen to Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling anywhere you go by subscribing on Apple Podcasts. Go to InsideVirginiaTechWrestling.com/iTunes, or you can get the exclusive Android or iOS apps by going to InsideVirginiaTechWrestling.com.
show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.